Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, aka SavageTechman. Joining me once again is the wonderful Scott Schreiber.
Hey, wonderful.
And today, a very, very special treat. Cheryl, my wonderful wife, Palace Princess, as she's known on Twitter, is joining us here on the show. And we're talking...
Returning to the show.
Returning to the show after a super long hiatus. She was out somewhere. She was like Captain Marvel. She was gone for like a decade, I think.
The beacon took a while.
Yeah, it took a beacon.
To come back and save you.
Right, the beacon, so we're retconning her into the podcast like Marvel
Does
did.
that mean we're going to de-age you?
Oh, gosh, I wish. But anyway, so this is a spoiler-filled episode. I can't speak. I'm used to saying spoiler-free, and usually if a movie sucks, it's spoiler-free, but we're breaking that rule because, well, I want to. So if you haven't seen Captain Marvel, what's wrong with you? Get to the theaters and check it out. We're going to start off with initial reactions, and I'll start with Cheryl since you're newly back to the podcast. Overall, what was your thoughts about Captain Marvel?
Well, I mean, I'll start by saying, for those who haven't heard me on the podcast before, if you didn't listen to earlier episodes, I'm not a comic book reader, so I'm not tied into what Marvel's done in the books about these, and I don't know all these deep backgrounds. So I just enjoyed the movie, as I generally do with the Marvel movies. I told one of our friends who went with us that, before we went, I said it'll be a great film. All the Marvel films are great. I said, well, except Iron 3. That's not a great film. But I thought it was a well-done film, and so I think it's taking a lot of criticism for reasons that have nothing to do with the film. It took a little time to get it started. I thought expected more action in the beginning than we got. It seemed like a long time before we started getting anything, and then it was this whole storyline on another planet that I didn't have any familiarity with what was happening or why it was happening. And the screen that we saw it on was pretty dark, so I also couldn't see what was happening. So let me know when they get to Earth.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I kind of see what you're saying because they really build it as this nostalgic 90s movie. And that first bit of the film, you're not stuck, but you're in space. So you don't get to the 90s for a little while. And that was kind of where I enjoyed the film a lot, was all that throwback stuff, especially the music and whatnot. But
Right.
I'm just a girl.
She was really
ass.
You knew they had to do that.
That
That no doubt was going to show up in Just a Girl. And it
worked.
I thought it would.
Well, and that kind of thing builds on, the whole thing with Guardians of the Galaxy, which has all the throwbacks to the music as well.
Right.
But
like
this didn't
70s,
have the
80s.
same level of comedy as a Guardians film
Right.
does. So
No.
it didn't feel like a Guardians film.
No, it didn't.
She also didn't have a team like Guardians does.
Yeah, and you got to wonder too, our audience is going to be like, because they've been spoiled with like 10 superheroes per movie, are they going to be like, okay, one's not enough, or
10 is one that only has one guy's name on it. Usually there's like 14 people.
Yeah, even
and there's
Captain America.
52 people in the last Avengers movie.
Yeah, right.
Captain America, Spider-Man, they all had 2 or 3 heroes in them at the very, at least 2 heroes in them. So, like Spider-Man had Iron Man as a mentor kind of, and hitting on Aunt May, which now apparently that's Lucky's job.
Right.
Tony's outsourced that to Lucky.
Lucky, Happy, what's his name?
Him and Pepper are back
Iron
on.
Man is settled down now, but I mean, you do have to go back to like the very early ones in the MCU with Iron Man is the only man in his movie,
Right.
And so once you start getting more and they add more of the superheroes, then you have more and more of them in the film. And when they all get in trouble, they just call up Black Widow and say, "Come save us."
Yeah,
Well, and
You
that's-
can't have your own movie because you got to save all our films.
But I think it works here too to be like Iron Man, where she's the only one, because again, this is Nick Fury coming across an alien for the first time, and it pretty much predates everything, so it kind of fits. She is the first.
I was waiting for another
the
MF
first
bomb.
Avenger. Who's the first Avenger?
Oh gosh, there was a guy in our big D that screamed out, "Oh come on!" when he changed the.
Really
I forgot the
screamed it
name of
out.
the protocols. He changed it to Avenger because that's her call
Oh,
sign.
at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they retconned it. That well,
I was proud of him for staying silent till that point of the film, because that's the very end of the film. So clearly this guy was having problems
He was
all
waiting
along,
for
and
something.
he just couldn't take it
well
anymore.
for me, my overall feeling.
I was also glad it wasn't Ed.
yeah, it wasn't me. Well, you told me to try to
I
remain
told you to
calm.
sit back down. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I did start something off that everybody picked up on. I was a leader for once, and I started clapping. I almost stood up in the theater when the Marvel credits came across, and it was
The
all
title.
Stan Lee. Yeah, the
Yeah.
title of Marvel Studios. I thought that was. I turned to you, Cheryl, and I said that's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, he's like,
And the movie
we can
hadn't
leave
even
the movie
started
now.
yet, right?
Thanos and
movie
everybody
now.
could have shown up, the Eternals, all the Guardians, everybody, and I would have said that Stan Lee was the
And that was
best
a really
part.
fitting
No, that was a
tribute.
great. No, it was a
Homage.
great way to start it off. It kind of was like, reminded you of this man and what the world is he built, and
Exactly.
and we're getting introduced. A lot of people are getting introduced to a new character. For me, really, as I'm with you, I'm with you, Cheryl. I didn't really read the comics, so I don't know a lot of that background either. And to me, Captain Marvel, this is new territory for me, for like a lot of viewers. So I thought it was done well. I enjoyed the film, and
Yeah, my initial thought just overall is knowing the controversies and we were looking at some of the reviews and listening to some stuff online, and there's a bunch of garbage out there. There's a lot of people that are, respective of what they feel, they're what did you call it?
Review bombing.
Review bombing. Thank you. The film on Rotten Tomatoes, they supposedly removed a whole bunch of user ratings because it keeps dropping and all that controversy. I'm just tired of all that negativity. These are some people that haven't even seen the film, so you need to go in, I think, with a fresh face and be diplomatic about it and look at the film for what it is. I enjoyed the film. I thought the CGI was done very well.
that's definitely what shines here. It doesn't have quite the production design as, say, Black Panther, but still, the visual effects. It's some great stuff. A lot of stuff in space, and obviously,
Right, back in space, like Guardians movie,
right,
or Thor. With this though, I don't. It's not as big a film as Black Panther. You don't have this huge pantheon of characters. You don't have the breadth of the geography. I mean, we're on a couple of different planets here, but we don't have that same kind of. We're not discovering Wakanda here.
Right, it's not the
We're in
world
Los
of
Angeles.
Wakanda. It's 1990s.
And one of the fun things about that is that retro vibe, not just with the clothes that she selects, pulling something off of a mannequin, which I'm very grateful that we
grunge
didn't
look.
get the Pretty Woman sort of thing like we did in Wonder Woman, where she tries on outfits before she picks. She just picks an outfit, puts it on, because she's got things to do. She's got butts to kick and aliens to
And
catch.
that was, we talked about this before recording, but that was one of those, for me, a Terminator 2 moment where she gets, give me your clothes, your boots, the Schwarzenegger. She even, when she lands in the blockbuster, you notice that him and Jamie Lee Curtis, True Lies, wasn't
it's
it?
True Lies.
She shot a photon blast at the thing and blew off Schwarzenegger's head, and then Jamie Lee Curtis is like smirking. It's so funny there on
but
the
then
cardboard.
she also in the Blockbuster store
Yeah.
picks up a copy of The Right Stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love little nuggets like that.
I did.
and that the Stan Lee cameo. There's a little nugget with Mallrats there too. So I thought those were nice little nuggets.
I was looking, as of course it was out of focus when she was in the Blockbuster store. I could see Last Action Hero on the shelf, and I was
Yeah.
tring to see which VHS
I think I
tapes
saw
were.
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
I did see that, and there was something to the left. I can't remember on the left side of the screen there, but I think they hit you over the head with a little bit of too much nostalgia. But Cheryl, you picked up brilliantly on when they were fighting. You said Force Awakens, when they were going through the canyons, very much like Force Awakens.
But also like Independence Day.
Independence
was one of
Day.
my all-time favorite films. Then she's dragging the guy through the desert like Independence Day. There are a lot of things that I see parallels between other great sci-fi and action movies
that they were pulling from,
and
or
part
referencing.
of that is nothing is really terribly new. You know, it's hard to do something that's completely original. Yeah. But I felt like those callbacks helped
the film. It helped. It helped bring it around for some people that, you know, maybe don't get the whole. If you're an old, we saw somebody you thought was Stan Lee.
Yeah, there was a guy
very old couple
down the stairs in the theater
compared to us,
and he turned and we could just see the back of him. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's Stan Lee! He's alive!
He faked his death.
He faked his death.
And he's in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, that movie of all places.
But you know, but talking about the range of age in the audience, one of the things that I think sometimes fanboys in particular, you know, might be forgetting is this is a film. Legacy now that's been going for well over a decade, and is still moving forward strongly. And so there were a lot of kids, even though we saw it on a school night, there were a lot of kids in that theater, and those kids maybe saw Spider-Man Homecoming, but they haven't seen this other stuff. And
what did that kid behind us say? He was saying it was. I was a little.
He said, "Oh, when it started, he said, is this better be Spider-Man?"
Yeah, he was looking for Spider-Man. He was ready for Spider-Man, not knowing the Spider-Man wasn't in this.
So you know, there's a whole new audience out there, and while they absolutely have to be respectful of the existing fan base, I see a lot of parallels to the Star Wars fan base when the prequels came out, and then more recently when the new films have been coming out, where the older audiences are like, this isn't.
But you know, now the prequels are looked on a little bit better than they were. They're not. There's still some bad
just
parts.
Because people are saying about the new one.
They're so angry about the new stuff, or the Last Jedi and Solo.
We turned out we like the old stuff.
Well, us the older generation, we have to kind of get over it.
Which is still, unfortunately, the core. Yeah.
Too, because like I really appreciated The Force Awakens. I know we're getting off on a little bit of a tangent because it really is the same movie as A New Hope, and I think that's where critics kind of tore it apart a little bit. But it's it was introducing it to a new generation, and they're going to do the same thing here with Avengers. It's obviously with Endgame, we're going to get the end of the original core. You know, a lot of those guys, even if they don't die per se, they're going to leave the universe. You know, from at least on the screen.
Right.
We're not going to see them anymore, so we've got to be prepared to move on. And Captain Marvel, because she is literally the most powerful person. I mean, what she has is power in her hands, literally. You know, I mean, the power of the universe, like nobody can touch her.
But does she have the power of Grayskull?
Let's have a crossover with
with He-Man.
But no, but she's kind of the perfect leader, I would say. You know, other people that have been in all these movies for 10 years may be upset that this new person's coming in and being the leader. That's off screen, but still.
I think that one of the best parts of the movie, other than the Stan Lee cameo and the beginning.
I love it. I do want to talk about the Mallrats thing. In a second, if you want.
I love the part where she was falling down and they showed her different stages of her life getting up. And then I was thinking of the little girls, the girl that was sitting behind us and the boy and their family.
Sequence,
well,
and I thought for a little girl how powerful.
Of the movie, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, right. And I would
that's Wonder Woman. That's Wonder Woman coming out of the trenches, even more so. And if I were a little girl or something like that, or I'm just a girl, the No Doubt song.
Well, I mean,
I would feel empowered.
Moment, Cheryl?
Right. Well, I thought it was very powerful, but I didn't, and I didn't look at it as this is just about a woman being powerful. The character says, I am human. And so this is about everybody. Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess that's a more post-feminist take on it, that empowering women is about empowering everyone.
And that leads to...
Everyone's limited when we limit some of us.
That leads to a good point that I think we need to cover is the fact that, there were so many people out there, especially white males, that were offended by Brie Larson's comments before, blah, blah, blah. But... this film it does not beat you over the head with female activism. I didn't go in there as a 40-something-year-old, I'm 48-year-old white male. I didn't go in there and say, oh, I'm not going to see the movie first. I definitely was going to make mine Marvel, was the hashtag, and I was going to see Captain Marvel, and I was not disappointed by the movie. Is it as good as Black Panther? No.
But I think Black Panther is such an outstanding film, not just within the MCU, but just as a film on its own. I think you don't necessarily agree with that, Scott.
Well, I just don't think it's up there with, like, I just didn't agree with its Best Picture nomination.
Right, right.
Like, I still think it's better than.
About the Oscars. You
It's
guys
not
are
better
obsessed
than
with that.
Infinity
I don't
War.
care.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's not Infinity War, but it is better than most of the other Marvel movies.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely solidly in the top 5 Marvel films.
It's just a holistically very good film. And
Yeah.
it has so many.
And the
powerful
writing was
messages.
good and solid.
Well, in this film, likewise, I mean, I already said this isn't as big a film, as broad a scope of film as Black Panther was, but then it does also have messages not just about the role of women in society or women's abilities in society, because Jan Rog is really putting Veers down, and she's being held prisoner really by the Kree. So they've got the device on the back of her neck. That's not what's powering her, which is what she thinks initially. That's what's limiting her power. So she's literally being suppressed by them.
And
so
she's
they can
literally
control
breaking her chains when she powers up and she's talking with the
Absolutely.
Supreme
and
Intelligence.
No, and I think some of that can be powerful. I think, to me, some of it came off as a little bit on the nose, but the stuff with the refugees too, obviously,
right, which is the other big
Yeah.
current topic in
Right.
the film is about refugees.
I don't have a home. The Skrulls don't have a home. And I was brought up I might be a little fuzzy on my comic books and Secret Wars and Secret Invasion and all that, but I always thought the Skrulls were the bad guys. And so I don't know if they actually flipped the script here. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but
I think it's I thought that was one of the better parts of the movie, where they set them up as the obvious villains and then flipped it, and and they may, as you said with the Secret Invasion, they may kind of adjust that down the line, but
Yeah, they're so obviously ugly to us that they must be the bad guys. And for me,
And they're not,
and again,
yeah.
I know nothing of the history of the Skrulls or the Kree Skrull War, but for me, it was about the fact that if we take a step back from a situation and look at it from the other perspective, if we try to see things from the other perspective, sometimes it's a completely different world. And that's what Veers discovers, is that what she's been taught for the last 6 years is from a perspective that she actually doesn't agree with. So I'm not going to go on the record with whether the Kree or the Skrull are wrong, because I don't know enough about their problems. But
Well,
she clearly is able to see now, and we see that from
But-
the first
and I think-
moment when Ben Mendelsohn's character is in with the dead Skrull, and he's saying goodbye to him.
Right,
It's
that's a
very
very-
tender.
sure.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, he's the bad guy, but he's being so nice.
Well, I think that's where, to me, it was definitely an allegory for what's going on in this nation. Obviously, with Mexico and the border,
Well, and in Europe as
And-
well, with refugees.
and
coming out of the
and I
Middle
I
East.
say it from, I guess, an American perspective,
Right.
and it is. You're right. It's more global than that. But that
Even
was
Asia. I mean, it's
right.
all over. Yeah, Africa, everywhere.
And so they did a good job of saying, "Oh wait, we're villainizing these people when they're just as human as us." So there is that message there too. It's not just the feminist message; it's the
Right.
global message.
Right, that global message about oppression and what oppression does to people.
Right.
Whether that's women or refugees or whatever kind of group is being suppressed, what happens to them and how do they get painted. So I recently shared something on social media about someone said to me, history's being rewritten, and I said, well, no, new sources are being discovered and new voices that were suppressed or hidden or lost
Right.
are being heard. So history's not being rewritten, it's being actually discovered. And so that kind of goes with the same theme about what's going on really with the Skrull, that Veers/Carol is discovering that she's been brainwashed in a way by the Kree for the last 6 years, and she's rediscovering herself as well. Which brings me to another point about the one real discrepancy I see in the character is that she is bold and confident, but she doesn't know who she is.
Yeah,
She doesn't know anything about her
Yeah.
history, and she's mad about that. She's uncomfortable about that, but somehow she still feels pretty good about herself.
Yeah,
that seems a little
I think that's a great
psychologically
point.
off.
Well, another point is that not Mendelsohn, the other character,
Young
Jude
Rock?
Law. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. His character, he tells her in the training, and he like taps her on the forehead and says, you got to use this instead of your heart sometimes. And, use your brains, be aware. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. And that is good advice because there was that Terminator moment there where the guy is kind of like sexing her up, and she could have blown him away and reacted, but she did the noble thing and she just rode off. And
well, it just wasn't worth her time.
Is that a form of? Is that a sexist thing that he says to her?
It is, absolutely.
I picked up on that. I thought
the idea
it was
that women are too emotional.
Right.
A woman can't be president because if she's in a bad mood, she might hit the red button.
He's telling her the whole time that she has to control her emotions. I thought that was kind of strange. It was kind of like, wait a minute.
He's telling her, I want you to be the best you are. He's telling her not to be all of you. Yeah. Don't be everything you can be. Control yourself and all. And literally.
So was he a white male suppressing her?
Well, he's a male suppressor. Right. I'm sorry. Well, let me put it this way: white men are not the only men who've suppressed women.
True.
In fact, probably more non-white men around the world are suppressing women right now.
We're thinking.
If we're looking in
thinking globally again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I tend to think more globally than just America. So it's very much a way in which
and that's the problem with mainstream films, because they are geared towards American audiences, so we don't see that other side.
Well, and that's one of the shifts that we're starting to see, though, because of the global audiences, particularly in Asia, who are buying tickets, and so they're crafting films, and that's why we see more Asians in a lot of films.
Right.
We got Gemma Chan. Gemma Chan is like the Asian in every film now. Except for, Crazy Rich
She's
Asians,
working. If you're an actor, you're working.
Well, I had to look her up
because
I wasn't sure what I'd seen her in before. I know she's on that AMC show, Humans, but I don't know if I'd seen her anything else. So.
She's been in a bunch of stuff.
She just pops up all over.
It's like several films we've seen.
And I've seen her play characters that aren't cast as Asian either in British. Because I watch a lot of British.
Was she in Crazy Rich Asians? I'm not sure.
She had to be because she's Asian, and every Asian was in it.
She was. I looked it up.
Hashtag we had an Asian with us who labeled himself as our Asian friend when we saw Captain Marvel.
Hashtag. But
I feel like I can run for political office now because I say, "There's my Asian friend."
Wow. But it was a good movie. Back to some of the references, the '90s references.
Let's talk about Mallrats for this. Just because I love it.
Sure.
That's one of my favorite. Actually, this is my favorite Kevin Smith film. Like I watched that religiously over and over and over.
Was that a hard choice for you to make?
No, and especially back then, like younger stoner Scott. But
don't do drugs, kid.
Exactly.
Drugs are mad. Okay?
But I love that movie, and like for that cameo, it was perfect because we're set in the '90s, and that movie came out in '95, I believe. So it was just that perfect to set it in time. What was Stan Lee doing in the '90s? He was rehearsing his line for Mallrats. I love it.
It opens this whole new conversation, though, among people who are fans of the MCU about is he in these films because he's Stan Lee in these films? Is he a character that's consistently throughout the universe?
I have an answer.
Stan Lee? Does Stan Lee exist separate from these films? I mean, what is Stan
Kevin
Lee's
Feige?
And I think everybody's thinking
I hope I'm saying it right, but that scene from was it Guardians or was it Infinity War where he's there with the Watchers? He officially did a fan service and said,
"Was
that Guardians? That was Guardians 2? Yeah, they said basically he's a Watcher. Or he works for the Watchers. That would explain his character being through all the films. And it's beautiful, perfect sense because who else deserves to be a Watcher? Somebody that is watching is what they do. And they usually show up around when there's traumatic events in the comics, especially like in the X-Men, you'll see them show up when the Age of Apocalypse begins and different things. But
now I'm thinking about Doctor Who.
I know.
So, I mean, this is all Stan Lee's universe. So he can do whatever he wants to.
Yeah, by all means. And the more Stan, the better. And it's going to be sad when after Endgame and then after Spider-Man Homecoming, when I believe there are no more cameos. At that point, I know it would be cheap, and I'm sure the computer graphics will be there, but I would not have a problem with them creating some Stan cameos.
They did a full 3D scan of him probably before,
It's like James Earl Jones.
Frozen somewhere.
In case they make Darth Vader movies for the rest of my life, which I hope they do somehow, I want him to go in, I said this years ago, I want him to go in the studio and say every possible letter, number combination, get it on tape, digitally, back it up,
just
everything. So you can create a James Earl Jones voice for Darth Vader in 20 years or 50 years or 100. years. His avatar or whatever we're into then, I don't know.
Well, maybe James Earl Jones should just be the first person we preserve through AI.
I have no problem with that. I don't know how him or his
James
family
Earl
would
Jones,
feel.
That's a new hashtag.
Oh yeah, you have to save Samuel Jackson. I mean, Nicholas Joseph
No
Fury.
one calls me Nicholas. Not Nick, not Nicholas, not even
What about
my
your mama?
Not my mama.
She calls me Fury.
But that brings up another point. One of the things I love so much about the Marvel films, and particularly in contrast with DC, they do such a good job of setting things up, covering all the bases, closing all the loops, and then connecting things.
And they can use
that
humor in the
scene is
worst
humorous.
situations
It's
to
humorous, it's
water
character
it down a little.
defining, but it also is an important point in the action later. And you've got it there in the car between those two characters. So it comes back again. So, that's one of the things. The other thing Marvel does really well, which they didn't have to do in this one because they didn't have 42 superheroes. Everybody gets their day in the sun, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, here's your line now.
And that's what Infinity War
story
did so well.
Well, and Civil War too.
Well, Infinity War even better. I mean, they took 10 years, 18 movies, and somehow found screen time to wrap everybody's into this wonderfully 10-year woven. It's like somebody sat there knitting for 10 years, all these movies
all
together.
The same writers for all the films, it makes it even more remarkable.
Well, yeah, it does.
And directors.
But all
You have
different
to-
directors.
That they're managing this
Yeah.
continuity.
Because I'm pretty
that
sure
nobody else can manage.
this directing team, I think that was their first Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Bowden and Fleck.
I mean, if you look at the Star Wars saga, if you look at the various incarnations of the Star Trek stuff, there is not that kind of continuity. I mean, hell, you can't get Klingons to look the same after 2 productions. They got to change
Please
their
don't get me
faces
started
again.
on the Kelvin universe.
They don't have. MCU has the best continuity, and I'm like the queen of continuity in a film.
I tell you, you
number
should be a
one.
script supervisor. You catch stuff that I don't.
They would fire me because I would cost the production so much money making them reset.
Well, I also loved the music, the '90s, all the great music. And I don't know if I mentioned
make
this to
me
you
over.
earlier. Not sure if you caught it, but a lot of these, like the best female-led bands,
Absolutely.
were in there.
Vogue,
The Breeders,
Yeah.
the Cannonball, and Hole, Garbage, No Doubt, of
Yeah.
course, with Just
Gwen
a Girl.
Stefani.
I mean, they had all these big female-led bands from the '90s. I thought,
And it worked.
I don't remember the Cranberries though. That would be the big omission.
Well, you can get the soundtrack from Marvel.
Whatever we want to do, let's not let it linger.
Well, my favorite,
the next one.
my favorite moment was probably though. Come As You Are, though, when she steps into the.
Okay, I got to ask you about that because she was kind of like Annette Bening, kind of dancing a little bit to it or moving a little bit to the music.
The dancing.
I won't call it dancing, but if you think about that song is one of the Nirvana songs that makes you want to kind of get up and move a little bit. It's a little bit more melodic. But what I'm saying is, did it seem a little watered down Disney moment by her being no?
I didn't feel that way. I don't know that. I
Like a true Nirvana, Die Hard would say, I can't believe that's in that film.
They might. I don't really care.
So
though.
that-
It's not me. I mean,
it's not me.
That
It worked.
was my era too. I was a grunge kid, man. I loved Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots more than Nirvana, but still, it's like that was a great moment. I loved all the music. I thought they did that great.
It'd be interesting to see the soundtrack.
Even when
if
they,
had all that.
when she was a kid, they used Heart, another female rock
band.
legend. So, smartly done.
Which Heart song was it? Was it Crazy on You? No, that would be the 70s.
That was definitely not Crazy on You.
I can't remember. It was early.
You guys are the music guys. But you did mention Annette Bening, and I thought she did a great performance,
good
both
job.
as Carol, as Marvell, as well as the
Which-
superior, what is it, superior intelligence? Is that what it is?
Which Marvell is, and I like to joke the head later about Marvell.
2 words.
Yeah, it's 2 words. It sounds. He goes, no, Marvel, which that was great.
In case you didn't get that.
But yeah, Marvell in the comics was a guy, and I did notice that, but
But
the
you know,
average
you can
person
change your
isn't going to care.
You can change your avatar on every video game you play. So why are we getting hung up on
That's
this
very
gender?
interesting.
Well,
thought
you're all
there.
It's irrelevant to her character.
It
really.
also
Yeah.
fits better though into the story too, doesn't it?
That
but-
she has
but
a
it-
female hero.
It was.
Yeah.
You made a good point, Cheryl. You said that it was a little bit more realistic. That they explained about the Air Force and why the
Yeah, I was
women.
very disturbed by 3 women, on an airbase flying planes
In the 90s.
Initially in the 90s, but they explained it. Maria Rambo explains that they weren't flying in the Air Force. They weren't flying combat because they couldn't. This was where they could get the exciting stuff done, working on Pegasus. So I was glad they put that in there because that was troubling me. I don't like actually rewriting history in that way. I think it's
Right.
fine to highlight stories of women, stories of people people of different backgrounds, but I don't like changing it into, there's a woman president in 1900. That just didn't happen. So let's be clear.
Well,
about
some
that.
hardcore people would say, well, Spider-Man isn't this, or you know what I'm saying, or the
Well, but I'm
Fantastic.
talking about
That's what they
real
had a
history. I'm
problem.
not talking about fictional history.
Well, the
talking about
Fantastic. That's
actual
where the
cultural
Fantastic Four
history.
movie
Well,
failed
no,
because
this is real.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
it's
Listen
real.
to
It's real to
everybody.
fanboys, but
It's really fanboys.
yeah. So that's all that matters. But let's see. Yeah. So the music was top notch. I mean, I was bebopping along. Bebopping. That's the wrong word. But
That's
who
80s
bebops?
or something.
Yeah, that's that might be the 50s for all I know. Bebopping.
Well, we got that a little bit when Fury talks about the Marvelettes, Mr.
Oh yeah,
Postman.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Fury?
Sure.
Let's talk
Oh,
about-
his eye. We haven't even talked about his eye.
Yeah,
or
talk about
How
the
many
eye.
times-
We
how
haven't
many
even
times
talked
we're gonna-
about
I know,
Goose.
I was gonna get the goose,
damage
yeah.
his eye,
So he tells it like it's. I always thought it was a secret co-op mission. You just assumed that, and then you find out Kitty scratched his eye.
Yeah, that's all. He just got his cat scratches his eye.
Cat
I
scratch.
love
That's
it.
not a cat.
It's what would they call? What
It's
was
a
the
flirkin.
Flirkin.
Flirkin?
Are you flirkin kidding me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can
I mean-
imagine some kid might have freaked out, but nobody freaked out. I thought they'd freak out when the
This is,
The
I mean,
stuff came
again,
out of
in
the
terms
cat's
of
mouth.
character development and looking back, Nick Fury of 2017 with Infinity War isn't the same person that he would have been 25 years earlier,
Right,
20 years
right.
earlier. And so we see that he's not the boss of anything. He's got this punk new guy in Coulson, but
How
he's
about
got
the-
a boss that he's reporting to, and he's just now encountering aliens,
For
which he thought
me-
was impossible before this. So I thought the fact that he was more casual and more cool, because the world hasn't been threatened.
wasn't
the way that
it
is over the
very
next
wasn't
20
it very
years.
Lethal Weapon cop buddy kind of felt that vibe
In
with
a
him and
way,
Carol,
yeah, I get
Well,
that.
what I like,
and there was charisma between
is here we have
Nick and
two
Carol
characters
Danvers.
who are working together, who are of different genders, and there's absolutely no hint of sexual interest across them because we don't get that with Scarlet Witch. I'm sorry, whatever her name is.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch.
Well, she's not called Scarlet Witch in the MCU.
Yes, she is. Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes, she is Scarlet
Is
Witch.
she called Scarlet Witch? I
Yes,
thought
she is.
She wasn't.
She is.
And with Black Widow, both of them end up in romances with their male colleagues. We don't get that here, and so I'm glad to have that.
Right,
There's
you're
no
right.
hint of that here.
There's really, other than you said the moment with the bicycle and the guy hits on her or whatever. That's the only moment.
Yeah, that's
of
my
sexuality.
T2 moment.
Yeah.
That's like their only moment of sexuality. There's no love story here. Well, not in a male or a
romance.
romantic. Yes,
Right.
there's no romantic love story. There is a love story between best friends.
Right.
Here with her and Rambo and the daughter too. The daughter's
daughter's
very
part of
much
that.
a part of that.
Yeah.
And
It was amazing how calm the daughter was when it was revealed that, if it were me, I said,
She's a remarkably
and there were
flexible
aliens.
child.
Yeah.
She was ready. She
I
was
would've
ready
freaked.
for
She's
this.
up for anything.
Yeah.
She's like, spaceships, I'm good.
She's
She
like,
had just seen Independence Day, so
There you
that's
go.
true. That's
She's
probably what
ready.
happened.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. This is our Independence Day.
Yeah, the de-aging process I thought worked well for Nick Fury, not as good for Coulson. I think you said, what did you say, Scott, about that? You think
Well,
they ran out of money?
Well, no, I don't know about ran out of money. They didn't want to spend it. Like, they obviously were spending a ton on Samuel L. Jackson because he's in nearly every scene.
Right.
So they're spending so much money to make him look 20 years younger. And when you get to Coulson, you're like, are we really going to spend this money on making Coulson look younger? Cut his scenes out.
Because at the
So no offense to him, but but his part, his little parts play a big part too.
Right.
You know, I mean,
He's integral to the story.
He is.
Well, but if we go back and we look at the films that Coulson has been in, he's not a major character
No,
in
he's
these
not.
films. We just love him.
He's
He's a major character on
he's
the
that
TV
thread.
show,
Right,
right?
he has a
But
He's the
not
thread that
show.
holds everything
He's
together.
right, but not even starting until Thor. So
Yeah.
So he's not.
Well, not really. I mean,
What's
he's
he
in
in
the
before
background when.
Thor?
So you think Captain America? You think you're the only Avenger?
well, but
You've taken a step into a bigger
but
world.
it's one. He's got.
But how many?
He's got
when you
one
add
line, he's
up
got a
all
hand.
his screen time, what does it add
It's
up
not even
to?
a whole feature.
It probably
it's probably
is.
not
He's
even
probably
10
been in
minutes.
15
I'm sure somebody's
films, and
done that.
he's
I hadn't
got-
No
checked on
offense
detail.
to Clark Gregg, but
Right.
yeah.
I mean, Clark Gregg is great, and he got a TV spinoff.
Well,
from it.
the first part of that, when the first time I saw
I will
him
say-
kind of from the back, and I was like, oh, that's Coulson. I said, I can't tell that it's actually Coulson, but I was like, yay, Coulson's back. Because I thought that might be the only time.
That
And then later
stand-in
on.
did his job really well.
Yeah,
Well, and I
yeah.
will say, because I'm so full of praise for MCU's film universe, they didn't do so well in TV. I mean, DC does beat them in TV, so
Yeah,
I'll just drop that here and leave it because we have other things to talk about.
early reviews, it kind of related. DC Shazam are positive, and they're saying they could have another hit on their hands, maybe as big as Aquaman was, which
I
was
doubt
a
it'll
shock.
be as big as Aquaman.
I doubt
Well,
it
I'm
too,
gonna tell
but
you
I
what,
think it's going to be
Aquaman was
fun.
big, and that's Jason Momoa.
Yeah, all you women going to
didn't
see
think
it like
it will.
50 times to see your
All you
Khal
women,
Drago.
really?
All
Whatever.
you women.
All you women.
Wow.
Wow.
Weren't we talking about a
we
film
are talking
about-
Wow,
about
wait a minute, I
Captain
just
Marvel.
realized that.
And he's saying all you women, really?
Oh.
I did not mean it that way.
I am offended. I am leaving.
I just
for
offended
being an
myself.
ally.
International
Scott.
Women's Day.
Exactly. We're recording on International
Wow,
Women's Day.
and I was shouting out, hashtag
And you're
International
oppressing
Women's Day,
women. Wow,
and
you need
now
to
I'm
take-
oppressing
Hold
women.
on, where's that mirror I like to hold up to your
Oh,
face?
I don't like that
You
mirror.
need to take a look at
I don't like
yourself.
that look in the
Take
mirror.
a look at yourself.
But
let's
no,
talk
I
about
did not
Goose.
mean to offend anybody
Goose.
by that. Goose.
Goose does steal the movie in ways, doesn't he?
Lots of ways he does. I mean,
Well,
every scene that Ben
equally so
Mendelsohn
with
in, he
Mendelsohn.
steals, he
Yeah.
steals, and Goose steals the movie. I think there were 4 cats that play Goose plus digital Goose. So
And evidently Brie Larson was allergic to cats. Something
yeah, and Samuel L. Jackson's not a fan of any kind of pet, but you wouldn't know that from the way he coochie coos to Goose.
This film actually
You won't
held
see
back
20
from the
We need
trailers.
to see a cat though.
Yeah.
In game because we got to see him at least pet a cat in there.
Oh, Goose is going to be in it from now on. It'll be a big draw. But at least I think some films, like when we were talking, or I was talking to a friend of mine back when we talked about Terminator Genesis, and they gave the whole movie away in the trailer. This didn't give some of the good parts that Brie Larson was getting crap for about not smiling and not being positive and funny. She was likable. She is an Academy Award winning actress.
Well, telling women to smile is another way of oppressing women.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
The
And
current review bombing culture is going to be big on that.
Yeah,
You'll be
but
prettier if
the
you
thing
smile,
is-
and it's even in the film.
I never once, as a white 40-something-year-old male, felt threatened by or her power or anything. I enjoyed the film. I think if you're a true fan, you're going to go in there liking it. I did have a problem with the Avenger thing at first, being her
Avengers
call
Protocol.
sign, and that's how that became the Avengers Protocol.
Why?
Because it's got to be Nick
Just
Fury had to be able
Scott.
to good one. You put me on the
No,
hot
I mean,
seat.
I'm sorry. I'm curious.
Well,
Well,
and that's what the
because
guy in the
I want to
theater
think that Nick
objected to.
Fury thought that up.
He
you know,
did.
He,
When Clark
I
Gregson
guess,
said it.
I guess he saw it there and he thought it up. But it just felt like, I know that guy screamed out in the theater, "Oh, come on!"
But just because he's called, I mean, the
Yeah.
project is still Nick Fury's brainchild. Just because he didn't, the name didn't come from within his mind.
And did you like the
Doesn't make
fact? I
what
like
it
the
is.
fact that Coulson, when he's there at his desk and he's doing that little scene about the Avengers Protocol, and Clark Gregg, he goes back to how Coulson was. He was very matter of fact. He was how he
Well, it was
answers
like
the
that
question.
through the film. I'm still
Yeah.
at the Blockbuster. Where are
Yeah.
you?
And then he realizes he's riding in the car, and that's not Coulson with him, and that was the scroll.
Well, and great moment when after the car accident with the Skrull and Fury,
Yeah.
when Fury wakes up and he turns and he sees the dead Skrull, and he's like, he totally
For the
freaks
first
out.
time,
He's
'cause they-
seen an
Yeah.
alien for the
Yeah.
first time, and he flips out.
And he covers him up.
But
with
he
his coat.
immediately realizes, I'm
Yeah.
Shield, and I need to take care of this.
Yeah, but it was a lot of things work for me for this movie. Is it the best one? No, but it is very good. I mean, I think it's going to stand up. I think it's going to have a little bit of legs on it. I think it's going to open big this weekend. For a Thursday night preview, we've all been to them.
Thursday night preview I've seen in a long time. Of
Yes.
anything.
No, and I went to today, which is, during the day, and there were definitely more people than I thought would be there.
Right.
People should be at work or in school, and there were definitely a lot of more kids than I thought would be there at 1 o'clock. So maybe that was International Women's Day. This is your education. We'll take you to Captain Marvel.
I was looking that some females might take this film as their version of Black Panther. As a social movement, and maybe it can be. Maybe it is to an extent.
I don't think so, because I think it already happened.
It happened with
Wonder Woman. And that's the problem.
True.
Because I don't think it's going to get that kind of movement, because it comes after Wonder Woman, and it's going to be, whether it's fair or not, it's always going to be compared to Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think
they're different films.
You thought it was better, didn't you?
It's a better film than Wonder Woman. I enjoyed Wonder Woman very much, but when you look back at it, there are too many things that just don't work for me. Mm-hmm. Her posse, they're completely irrelevant to the story. One even just disappears for a while. I don't like the final battle scene.
Well, if you didn't like I said at dinner, I said, if you don't like Captain America: The First Avenger, chances are you won't like Wonder Woman, because they're basically the same film.
Yeah.
I like Wonder Woman as a story about this woman. I don't know that I like it as a superhero movie.
I think Wonder Woman 1984, which I think is the running title right now for the sequel, I think it's going to be much more relevant than that film was, because you were dealing with a different time. And so you're going to see a little bit more. I mean, you saw Wonder Woman standing out in that time. Gal Gadot's character, she wasn't going against the status quo. Why is a woman here in, what was that, Parliament
she's
or whatever?
So completely different. She's so outside of the culture in which she travels.
She's an alien to it.
Right,
yeah.
she's alien to it. So none of that makes sense. She's coming from a totally female culture. But I think for me, I do have to say Wonder Woman to me is the best of the DC films. I don't think Aquaman
It's the strongest.
is better.
You don't think Suicide Squad is?
Suicide Squad, let's not go there.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if you
Suicide
heard.
Squad
Sorry,
is
that
a
was
good
sarcasm.
laugh reel,
Will
laugh
Smith
reel.
has stepped away from the Suicide
Saw
Squad
that
sequel.
Idris Elba might do it, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to jump in there, and I like him as a character, but I don't really care to see another Suicide Squad.
I think I do, because I want to see them do it better. Because I was excited about it.
You said you wanted to see the darker DC.
Yeah, I like the dark
all the
DC.
box office and the fan backlash.
That's what it does best, is the dark
Right.
DC.
Yeah, but they didn't do it so well with Batman versus Superman. A lot of people didn't like it because they were following the Dark Knight.
So many poor choices.
I'm telling you, Aquaman and now Shazam, which is meant to be a bright, kind of bubbly,
Guardians
childish
of the Galaxy
character,
for DC.
that is going to pull DC a lot closer. And if we actually get a Man of Steel 2, which we probably won't, but
Be a different actor.
Well,
that's
see,
for sure.
classic DC from
I think
30, 40 years ago.
now we've got a chance to bring
Is that?
DC out of the darkness, because they're trying to find their way closer to what Marvel's doing in the light, but still be darker because they're DC. They've got to find that right chemical mixture, and they went too far over because of the shadow of the Dark Knight trilogy, which is brilliant, by Christopher Nolan. And now maybe we'll get some of those, like you were saying, some directors of Nolan's caliber in there that can bring, forgive me, what's the gentleman's name that did Aquaman? Is it James? I want to say James Wan. Am I correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he brought such a brilliantly bright cinematic eye to Aquaman. I think it's the antithesis of Nolan. It's like Nolan on the dark side of DC, and then you have Aquaman, and Wonder Woman's going to be a lot brighter. The tone they're changing. So I don't know.
She's a girl.
Well, no, but Aquaman, I mean.
Well, let me say this. The other thing, one reason that I like Captain Marvel better than Wonder Woman is, for me, Wonder Woman is a movie about a woman, and Captain Marvel to me is a movie about a hero who happens to be a woman.
Okay.
I don't see her story as essentially female.
Okay.
I don't see her development as essentially female.
I don't know how I feel about that statement. I think it's very female aware has that awareness, but
I don't think the
I
character
think it's
herself
more
is aware
about
of her femaleness.
No, right. It's more about her, whether she's human or Cree, or it's more about that identity more so than about her gender.
well, you said that earlier. Yeah, she says I'm human.
Right. She says, I'm human, not I'm a powerful woman. So
Right.
she's not discovering herself as a woman. She's discovering herself as a person. And
Right.
that journey is, across all genders. So so that's what I think is one of the strongest things about this, that it's not essential. It's a story because she's a woman and because Brie Larson is a woman playing her that will cause people to identify with her. But I think the story itself isn't essentially about being a woman.
Okay.
And she herself never behaves, I think, as a woman.
No.
When Fury, she behaves as a hero. When Fury comes up to her at the telephone booth, she's just like, I don't have time for whatever it is you got to talk to me. I got stuff to do.
She's like,
Yeah.
You know.
I'm here to stop your planet from being invaded by shapeshifters.
Yeah. So tell me.
Talk to the hand.
Exactly. Right.
As if,
like, okay, I gotta
whatever.
go. I don't need my ID on a little card.
She's like, yeah. She's like, I can't even.
Oh, you're not up to speed. She says something like that, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need a little card. I guess it helps when you wear hats with your emblem on it. Helps
If
you
you're supposed to be undercover, where you have a
undercover.
hat, you're covered on.
That self-awareness was funny, and from an outsider's point of view, that's what they probably would say.
But again, for me, that's also
Yeah.
where the character falls apart, because she does seem to have that sense of self-awareness, but she literally doesn't know who she is.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, I mean,
she can be
someone will
powerful in
write a
spite of not
dissertation
knowing who
about
she
that.
is.
You can credit me, say thank you in your opening to your dissertation about that dichotomy.
Wow.
I will come and listen to your public reading.
What else do y'all want to talk about Captain Marvel? What else would you like to say?
I did have another thing.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to Endgame. I'm already looking forward to Endgame, trying to figure out what's going to go on after
I
the
did.
snap.
The closing scene?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did actually had another thing about Goose, but we'll go on.
No, that's okay. Say it.
You're such an animal
I
person.
know, no, it was kind of. I thought it was kind of cool, like that you get the reference, like why it's called Goose.
Oh, yeah, because the name originally in the comics for the cat is Chewie.
Right.
Which people would obviously think that's short for Chewbacca.
So they had to change it, and I
Goose.
thought that was a cool. I thought it was appropriate.
And
it was
The
a top.
call
and
sign
what
for
is-
Top Gun
Yeah,
for
Top
Anthony
Gun.
Edwards'
Top
character.
Gun's called, yeah. That was,
And so here he is.
Yeah.
He's the first time you see him. He's out on the tarmac
Yeah.
with her. I think that's the first time you see him, and
And
he's
comes
rubbing
straight
against her
to her,
leg.
yeah.
And that's the thing in the scene where
yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
They're on the spacecraft or whatever it is out
Above
in
Earth.
orbit.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Kree have now taken control of the scroll again.
Right.
And he's holding.
Nick Fury's holding.
Nick Fury is holding.
I'm sorry,
Goose,
Fury.
and he still thinks it's a cat at that point. Even though Ben Mendelsohn's character told him that's not a cat.
It's the most
He puts
dangerous
the cat
life
down,
form.
and the cat goes to this guy that is a Kree.
But it's actually
Right.
Mendelsohn.
And
yeah.
Fury says, pick a side,
Right.
choose your side. Well, he has, because it's
Right.
Mendelsohn in,
Yeah.
in Kree disguise. So,
Right, so
so Goose always knows which side he's on, and he's on the side of the Tesseract, obviously.
Yes.
and that scene
And
where
how powerful is he?
that he can hold
He can
an
swallow
Infinity Stone.
the Tesseract.
Right.
Yeah.
When
He doesn't need a bunch of friends.
Ronan can't even
Yeah.
touch it, right? That's what
Yeah.
kills
Yeah.
Ronan later, right?
Yeah, because then Star-Lord and them, it took all the Guardians to kind of hold that power,
Right.
to
And that's what-
distribute it between them like a
That's what
lightning
kills
rod.
the tree.
Yeah, that's what, and then we get Baby Groot out of that.
Baby Groot.
So where does this go to Endgame? How does this work?
Well, they literally showed the next scene, or probably the beginning of Endgame.
Right.
I think next, because they turn around and they're powering up the little Nick Fury's little pager that she had outfitted Captain Marvel, and it
How long
stops
did that run
blinking.
before she finally shows up?
And I was shocked to
what kind of
see the
delay is there
Avengers in
across
there.
the
And
universe?
we've talked
Yeah.
all this time and we haven't even brought it up. This was my first question. So this is the first emergency?
Well, half the people did die, so it is pretty.
There's like millions and billions of people
New
dying.
York,
and then-
New York in the Avengers wasn't an emergency. Sokolov or
But you see
Sokovia
what-
was an
Sokovia.
emergency.
That's
Fury was
freaked
like, "I
out.
got this."
Think about this. That freaked out Tony Stark. Even when you get to Iron Man 3, especially, they deal with a lot of that post traumatic stress syndrome. When you get down into, Tony is dealing with that ever since New York.
But this is when
he's like,
Fury-
he's been in my head, Thanos. And,
Fury doesn't call her until
Right.
Fury is disappearing.
right.
And so
Because then he knows.
That's true.
That's
it
a
is
very
the
good point.
end.
It is the end.
Fury's not holding down the fort anymore, so he has to call her.
Wow,
he has
that's
to.
that's the
That's
answer
good.
He
right
has
there.
to
That's
call her
brilliant.
back.
There you go.
All this time
That's
he's
exactly
gotten
why.
her.
I guess who's to say that he's not paged her before and
We just
she's
haven't
just
seen
been too busy?
We'll get it in flashbacks.
Or it's taken
No,
too
she's
long.
Been there, and we'll get it in flashbacks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they'll retcon it. But I think what you just said is brilliant. I think he realizes, oh mother, this is a problem.
Mother Furkle.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how to deal with people turning to ash real quick,
Mother
so
Flirkin' snakes.
I'm gonna call her, and she's just gonna have to be mad if it ain't right. That would be the comic book version of that.
Well, but I think one of the
But-
things that we were talking about off air is that Captain Marvel has harnessed all of the power, not out of choice, but has harnessed all the power of the Soul Stone. Doctor Strange has harnessed all the power of the Time Stone. Gamora, maybe,
Soul.
Oh, Soul Stone. So she's got Space Stone. Captain Marvel's Space Stone. Doctor Strange has the power of the Time Stone. So does Gamora now have the power of the Soul Stone? And we're going to see her come back. So are we going to see?
I think her and Thanos are in the Soul Stone. I
Are we going
think,
to see
or
all
at
the
least Thanos was
Infinity
in there
Stones
temporarily.
become? Is that part of the next iteration that all the stones are going to be, empowering someone, and that's how we get the next level of superhero?
Like Vision with the Mind Stone.
Vision. So what's left? Mind Stone, Soul Stone, Time
Well,
Stone, Space
Power Stone.
Power Stone.
Glenn
so
Close has the Power Stone, doesn't she? Doesn't she have the?
No,
Thanos has the Power
no,
Stone.
Thanos got them all.
Oh
but
God, I just before
Snap.
Endgame, sorry, or before
should have
Infinity
went
War.
for the head.
Yeah, so they all, but
That was on
Yeah, so there's
Xandar,
two-
remember?
so
Because he
what,
went. And,
two stones now that aren't powering someone. So who are they going to power? That's what I'm
well,
thinking.
that's you see the Infinity
again, I
Gauntlet
know
looks like it's
nothing.
burned out.
I talk like I know things. That's how I get
But
away
don't
with
forget
stuff.
you have
People believe me because I speak
help me
with
out Tyrion
confidence,
Lannister's
like Captain
character.
Marvel.
And
giant
Navalier, wherever. Yeah, he can forge another Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, but he can't make more stones.
No, he can't make more stones. Maybe Howard the Duck is going to come in and save everybody.
Oh, Howard the Duck's going to be powered by the Power Stone.
Yeah, or I don't know. So, final thoughts on it.
well,
I thought those were our final thoughts.
Oh, okay.
they were like. I mean, I think we were talking about the Secret Invasion. We won't try to get off too much on that, but I think that's
Right.
actually maybe somewhere you were right. That may be a storyline they go down in Endgame, because wouldn't it be fun to see,
All the Avengers go bad,
Hulk,
essentially.
yeah, or really it'd be cool to see Captain America do evil things,
Yeah.
and then or see Hulk fight Hulk, because the Skrull could be taking the form of Hulk, where we see Hulk get to fight himself. So I don't know. That's an interesting storyline they
When are we
could
gonna
go
get
down.
She-Hulk?
There you go.
You could do that. You could do. Well, they never did
Well,
anything with.
He's
But then what's that going to do to Black Widow?
Black Widow. Yeah.
Yeah, I just and you brought up a good point about Black Widow. Yeah, and I kind of said this before. Is I feel bad for Elizabeth Olsen and for
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson
bad for
because
Elizabeth
now
Olsen. I feel
Captain
bad for
Marvel comes
Scarlett.
in and she's so overpowered, almost godlike compared to them who have. Well, Scarlet Witch is in the comics is extremely powerful, but Natasha Romanoff really has
She doesn't
zero
have any
power. She
She's
just
really
like
good at kicking.
She's just a badass.
she's just a badass,
She didn't
and
have time
I
for
don't
this.
want those ladies to be overshadowed or is it a
Well, I get your
know.
point, but that's more like off screen
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the actors, not
Because
the
when you're really
characters.
thinking about the characters, like it's Captain Marvel. Marvel is in her name. Again, she
it's Marvel
she has the
Two
most.
words.
She is the most powerful being that we've seen in this universe
so far.
that we've seen so far. So it's the characters there. It's not.
Is it-
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's Johansson and Olsen have put in time, and they've been in a lot of movies. But again, it's like Captain Marvel, you see what she does in this movie.
But I don't.
Nobody on Earth.
I think
They
she
paid their
gets.
Marvel dues,
like,
and
nobody-
she gets to reap the rewards.
I think
I think
somehow.
hold on a second. I don't think she showed up all this time because she didn't think anything on Earth was even worth her time because she can just,
Possibly.
with a flick of the finger and nobody.
It's like
something
Superman.
really bad happens.
It's like Superman flying around catching bank robbers all day long.
yeah.
you know?
Again,
I mean-
maybe Fury called her and she's like, Fury, dude, you've got it. I believe in you, man. I believe in you. She's been his.
Or
his for a
Fury
long
was
time.
such a wonderful quarterback that he was building his A team and his B team, and then he got at the end of his rope and was like, "Okay, I got to call her now," But
ultimately,
I don't want
this
her to come in
is-
and just go toe to toe with Thanos and knock him out in the punch like
Well,
that.
they wouldn't
Yeah, they
because he's got a whole
won't.
film.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I want,
Well,
I
but
want.
isn't Thanos gonna? He's an anti-hero.
He might.
I would
Thanos-
love to see him turn good. It's like
There's a
It's like
possibility.
Negan on The Walking Dead. I'm wanting Negan to just be.
For the love of Judith.
To me, yes,
the
through the love of Judith. Like I want to see these guys because I was actually rooting for Thanos during Infinity War, so that's why I love the movie so much. So, but anyway,
Well, but Thanos. Here's the true thing. If you look at it again, trying to see things from the other guy's perspective.
Yeah.
Thanos is doing the wrong thing for the right reason,
right.
and he explains that very eloquently.
Yeah, he's a well-written character, and James
And
Brolin couldn't have done a better job.
He makes the greatest sacrifice. He doesn't
The greatest
have to die himself, but
the greatest
he
sacrifice
kills,
require the
has to
strongest of
sacrifice
wills.
The thing he loves the most.
So is there a bigger threat out there than that?
That's exactly what I'm
than
thinking. I'm
Thanos?
thinking. Rumor is maybe Galactus, which would be
Okay.
because the Fantastic
I
Four
look
are
at
coming.
Cheryl and say, "Okay,
what if I
Galactus.
identify as from my
Galactus
lack
is
of knowledge?
Galactus devours planets. He eats planets.
Oh wow, okay.
So
Well, we know
he's
it's not ego.
but one of his heralds is the Silver Surfer, who is always showing up in Fantastic Four.
Right.
So they're all Fantastic Four is going to eventually they're on the front burner once Marvel gets a hold of them and gets them all under one tent in X-Men.
Now here's
and I think we're going to lead to an X-Men crossover.
Well, and it's where I was kind of going was like,
Yeah.
what's the chance that a bigger threat is the Dark Phoenix? Would they even dare do
Just
that?
don't even worry about the Fantastic
or
Four.
just let that play out. and
if
then do
what I
something
hear about
else?
Dark Phoenix minus the trailer, the new trailer looks very good to me.
I thought it looked great. Yeah.
But from what I've heard in productions, and productions can be a disaster but still turn out great,
yeah.
But maybe Dark Phoenix is so bad that they'll have to fight it.
It can't be, man. I think it'll do well.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of places that a film
There
can
are
go
so many
wrong.
ways they could go with the storyline. But yeah, if they, we're going to get, I have heard almost a unofficial confirmation out there that we're going to get into what they call the externals that are like, they have like 1,000-year lifespan. And basically Ego, the living planet, is one, but he took that more human form. But when you get to, I think it's Nowhere.
The Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Nowhere, which is that floating head in Guardians, that's literally the head of an external. So if
The
I'm
dead
understanding it correctly, and if I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm hearing that it's going to be more intergalactic. So
I
like,
just want to make sure that it's still,
believable
I'm a little
and
bit
relatable.
concerned moving away from Avengers that it becomes less human. And that I think is at the heart
That's-
of all of the heroes. You know,
Yeah.
Thor's not human, but it's still a struggle. He's got this whole family drama. He's got
Well, right now he's lost more than anybody.
right.
So
which
Yeah.
you
Well,
realize
he has that I don't know, because Starman tries to out tragedy him.
Oh yes.
Star-Lord, yeah.
Yeah. My father killed my mother.
Who? Star-Lord?
I mean, the pirate angel baby.
Yeah. But
I love that. Yeah.
boy, taking the full brunt of a star can kill you. Yes, I'll be fine if I don't die. Well, that's what dying means, or something like that. I screwed up the line, but from
You changed it.
I changed
They
it.
changed
Yeah,
it.
I retconned it.
Oh, if you say retcon one more time this month, you may not have another podcast in you.
Ultimately, this
If
that
anything happens to
Captain
him, you know
Marvel
why it
did
was.
for me at least whet the appetite for what's going to come 2 months from now. I'm
And
now excited for Endgame.
It has that
even if
multiplier in there.
Even if it only had the one scene that really connected it there in the credits. I mean, there's some other little, things with the pager there at the end too, so it's not much, but it's like, all right, it's here, it's time. We've now seen the Captain Marvel,
and we're months away from Endgame, which blows my mind.
2.5 months.
Yeah, so. It's not long.
And so it's going to be very fresh on people's mind. That movie's going to open massive. Yeah. It's going to be,
I just remember seeing Winter Soldier, the actor who plays Winter Soldier, on some talk show maybe a year and a half ago, and he said, I went in and I shot some scenes, and frankly, man, I don't even know what movies they're for, because they were filming so many things at once.
Well, they were filming Infinity War.
All of this is developed
and Endgame at the same
this
time.
Brilliant interconnected web that, I just think they've done a marvelous job.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the charisma.
Kevin Feige.
One question: if Captain Marvel, along with Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange and Black Panther, they're strong enough and they can lead the new Avengers, whatever you want to call them, Avengers going on from here. But do you think any of them have the charisma that Robert Downey Jr.? He launched this whole thing. I mean, he is so Tony Stark in real life. I mean, he nailed that character. That character was like written for him.
Well,
almost.
I would say,
and can Brie Larson
he is the real
do
Tony
it?
Stark.
Yes, I do. I think that you have Chris Pratt. That's your.
Oh, your comic.
That's basically your. If you're talking
The
charisma,
ego.
Yeah, the ego.
He's going to be tops there. I would also say if they didn't write Thor out, if Thor sticks around somehow, because
there's talk of a fourth Thor movie because how good Ragnarok did.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, and you got Hemsworth, and he's basically the biggest star in the world right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he can do no wrong. They found out that he was funny on Ghostbusters, and now it's like...
I know, a lot of people take crap for that, but he was the funniest part of that film.
He was on that show.
But that, yes, I do. I think, obviously, Thor, if he doesn't leave after Endgame, then he carries the mantle with... I think Brie Larson did a good job, so I think she can do it. Boseman is charismatic. I do think, they do have the people that can lead this. Yes.
I don't know about Doctor Strange. I mean, I've just never.
Well, he's
I've never
kind of a wet
been
blanket,
sucked in
isn't
him.
he?
Yeah. And so
I like Doctor
but you
Strange.
have to
I like him,
have
but his
that
character
balance.
is a wet blanket.
He doesn't have the
Well,
same,
I think he's gonna
bold character.
But he is that.
Although arrogance,
He had the
that.
arrogance in his solo film.
where does Spider-Man fit?
But he kind of loses. Oh, Tom Holland will be part of this.
Right, we didn't
as
even mention that. He's
That's
probably maybe the charismatic of all. Well, I still think Pratt
does the
is,
teenager become the leader of?
Right, you can't. That's why we probably didn't mention him, because he's the kid still.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever does. I don't think so. I don't think he becomes the main draw. I mean, Spider-Man.
But let's think about the audience. The new audience, though. The kid behind us screaming, "This better be Spider-Man."
Yeah, that's true.
Hold on, we are all safe. It's all safe and in good hands because we got Hawkeye.
You mean Ronan?
Yeah.
I really think his family went to ashes. The quote, the Deadpool 2 song.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's obviously. I mean, in the previews, he's turned dark. Yeah. So what would do that? His family's gone. Yeah.
Or maybe Ronan is actually a Skrull.
Ronan's dead.
Who are you talking about?
No, I thought it was Ronan is his name.
Died.
Ronan's died.
Are you talking
Who am I thinking
You're
of?
talking about
Hawkeye. Isn't he Ronan? Isn't that the name of his character, Ronan? Oh.
Hawkeye's the name of the character.
Yes.
I mean, Hawkeye's his code name.
but
what's the character's real name?
The characters that we saw
It's not
him
Ronan.
in was, I think it was not Ronan.
No, because Ronan is the blue guy that dies in Guardians and was in Captain Marvel.
Ronan. What am I? Oh dear, I thought his name was Ronan.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna.
We're not even gonna edit that out. Okay, Google.
Jeremy Renner. What was your character's name? Man?
What is Hawkeye's other name in Avengers Endgame?
Barton. I win.
Golden Archer, Goliath, Ronan. Thank you.
But it's Ronan with an I.
It's Ronin.
Not Ronan.
Clint Barton
Who's Cree.
and notable Alice.
But
Alias.
Clint Barton.
What is that word?
Clint Barton is his human
What do you call it?
name.
Alias. I can't say alias. But he's known as the Golden Archer, Goliath, and Ronin. Ronin. I was correct.
Well, with an but we weren't talking about
Well, I was talking
Yes,
about
Ed's
him.
always right.
No, I'm not always right.
If
But
not, they changed it.
yeah, they changed it. But I can't think of the blue guy. I thought maybe his name is Ronan. No,
It
Ronan
is.
the Accuser.
There's a Ronan
That's the blue
Accuser.
dude with
Yes.
the big hammer dude.
Yeah, thank
thing.
you.
Yeah, we
We're
didn't
glad
say
you explained that for us.
already.
Anyway, but I didn't realize they had the same name. It must be a different
Ed
spelling.
wasn't in the room when he was here.
I'm just catching up. I time shifted. I'm sorry. Let me roll that back with the time stone. All righty,
Well, I
well,
mean, and Doctor Strange said this is the only way. So whatever it is, this was the only way to win.
and that was a beautiful plot device. So it shut all the fanboys up. So basically, you can't say anything about how Infinity War turned out because that was the only way
Exactly.
it would work. And so basically, letting Thanos win, and then seeing the
Well,
errors.
we already know because there's a Spider-Man movie coming that Spider-Man
I know.
comes back. So.
And the rumor is that
We
that's
just don't know
taking
how.
literally like a vacation from Avengers Endgame, essentially. And he's going to
I
Europe.
wish I
And
could go to Europe that way.
yeah, well, you get an Infinity Gauntlet, and we'll
I'll
we'll
fight
make it happen.
Thanos for a trip to Europe.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know how to end this, but
You never do.
Captain Marvel, go see Goose. I mean
By
Captain
the way,
Marvel.
all the noise being made in the background is being made by your host.
By the sound guy,
Slamming
yeah. I'm
things,
sitting here
tapping
flapping my
things,
phone,
playing with
clicking the pen,
pens.
and I'm like, yeah, that's not good.
Room
So
time.
how does it end?
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Good
Thank you for
night,
joining
ladies and
us.
No,
gentlemen.
it ends with Goose coughing up the Tesseract. The end.
The end. Furball. Somebody scream
And then
furball.
Loki shows up.
And Loki, Loki's not dead.
Ta-da.
On the Disney Plus streaming service, you're right.
I gotta pay for it, but I will. If it's Disney,
we're
I'll do
paying
it.
for
We're
Disney.
paying for Disney. Okay, well, thank y'all for joining us. Scott Schreiber, as
No
always.
problem. Shameless Disney plug.
Shameless
they
Disney
needed
plug.
that, you know.
They need
If
that.
it wasn't for me,
Send your
Disney would
money
be
to
out of
Exactly.
Disney now.
Yeah.
Disney is in need of your billions.
I love you, Mickey.
We love you, Mickey.
You
My
thanks-
pleasure, Ed.
You
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Scott. You
And-
thank Scott.
I'm thanking
remember
you,
my
my
full
wonderful
name
wife,
this time?
Cheryl, Palace Princess.
Oh, I don't get a last name.
Cheryl Ciucevich. Spell that. Anyway,
I can spell it. Can you?
yes.
You put a T in it that's not there.
It's how I say my name. Doesn't matter. It
Nobody
doesn't
cares.
That's not how any of this works. Okay, we're going. So hopefully you enjoyed this weird, crazy episode. Thanks, guys,
Final
for joining
thoughts?
me. Final thoughts on the final thoughts on the final thoughts.
I'm going to say one more thing, then I'm a hush.
For real? Oh. Okay.
Dang.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.